course, you have really, really powerful penalties led by the death penalty for the really bad pushers and abusers. We are going to get nowhere, and I'm telling you, we are going to get somewhere.
The death toll is mounting in America's opioid crisis, and U.S. President Donald Trump is calling for justice. Prescription painkillers, heroin, and synthetic drugs such as fentanyl are all opioids. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say 2.4 million Americans are addicted to the drugs, which kill an average of 150 people every day.
My administration is officially declaring the opioid crisis a national public health emergency under federal law.
In 2016, illegal and prescription drug overdoses killed an estimated 42,000 people. Particularly hard hit were the East Coast and Midwest, which had a 70% increase in opioid overdoses. But it's not only about drug dealers. Trump's plan also calls for criminally negligent doctors, pharmacies, and pharmaceutical companies to be punished. But the White House is not clear as to what would trigger a death sentence for dealers. Trump is trying to get Congress to approve $6 billion in new funding for the next 2 years to fight the crisis, and hopes to cut opioid prescriptions by a third over the next 3 years.
The spring of 2009, he broke his collarbone wrestling, and he ended up having to have surgery. So after the surgery, they gave him a prescription for Percocet for the pain, and that kind of started, that was his very first taste of an opiate.
Cameron Weiss became addicted to opioids as a teenager, but it was a heroin overdose that eventually killed him not long before his 19th birthday. But he is not alone. In New Hampshire, one of the states hard hit by the opioid crisis, this couple lost their daughter Jacqueline to an opioid overdose in 2014. They say not enough is being done to fight the epidemic.
We want to have some solid information or some solid plans on getting rid of the opioid epidemic, not, you know, and when he said that the death sentence could be one, well, that's going to take a while to even materialize, I'm sure.
Drug-related murder is already a capital offense in the United States, but until now, no one has ever been executed for it. Trump has been outspoken on the idea, citing the success of such harsh policies in both Singapore and the Philippines. But not every country that imposes the death penalty for drug use has seen a drop. Iran has one of the highest rates of opioid addiction in the world, even though it carries out executions. Trump seems determined to push the death penalty forward. But with many Democrats opposed to the idea of executing drug dealers and the fact it requires an act of Congress, his policy is likely to face an uphill battle. Pirovolakis, The Newsmakers.